Message also to that event also, Lee. So, Erev Tov, everyone. I want to take us to a very short journey in the history. I want to start with 3,700 years ago, and then we're going to go a little bit closer to our time. But 3,700 years ago, we went out of Egypt. And one of the mitzvot God told us to start to do right after we went out of Egypt was to count the Omer. This is what we do till those days. And it's a good question to ask, what exactly is that? Why we need to count it? I mean, if I want to count days to something, let's say, to count to Matan Torah, it's nice. Why not to count days till Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur? Since the first day of Elul, we know it's 40 days, right? We're starting all the slichot and everything. Why to choose specifically that time to count it? And I heard a beautiful answer from Rabbi Milubavitch. He said, actually, God commanded us to count only after we counted ourselves. Meaning, Bnei Israel went out of Egypt. They knew in some point they're going to get the Torah. This is what God told them. This is what Moshe told them. So they started count. You know what? If one day we're going to get the Torah, let's start count the days to see when the Torah will come. So they counted 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I'm stopping here to hint you what's going to be the next blessing for tonight. So eventually they went to 49 days and boom, they got the Torah. Beautiful. God loved the idea so much the day after that. God loved the idea so much, He told them, you know what, from now on I want you to count every time from Pesach to Matan Torah, to dedicate that moment of counting and anticipate and waiting so much to get the Torah. Now let's skip 3,600 years, exactly 100 years ago, in the 18th of Nisan, like Chaim mentions, Rabbi Waker mentioned. Exactly 100 years ago, it was the days of the Aliyah Shlishit, like the third time people did Aliyah to Israel. There's like an English name for Aliyah, or just Aliyah. Everyone knows what's Aliyah, right? To do Aliyah. So they were like very famous big Aliyot. That was the third one. That was the first time that a massive religious young Jewish people came to Israel. So far it was mostly non-religious that very believed in socialism and wanted to build the country from the beginning, and suddenly came a lot of religious guys and wondered what to do. From the one hand, they add all the non-religious person that was really against the religious. And from the other side was the Haredic movement that basically was against building Israel. So where they can find themselves. So they go to a movement that called HaMizrahi. Probably you heard that name. And they told them, you know what, HaMizrahi, let's do something also to build settlements, to start building the country. So in Yudchet Nisan today, 100 years ago exactly, they started the mini movement that called Hapoel HaMizrahi, that started working about building Eretz Israel. They're going to have a beautiful event next week, I think, in Israel. My dad is going to lecture there also, so it's going to be beautiful. And last thing that I want to mention, and then I try to connect them all, in 1993, also Yudchet Nisan, Rabbi Soloveitchik passed away. I'm sure you know the name, and I mention him because he was one of the heads of the movement of HaMizrahi, the same movement that we just mentioned started build up Israel as also from religious perspective and not only of Zionist perspective, let's say. And I think it's all connected because the movement of the Tzionut and Rabbi Soloveitchik, very famous with a lot of things he said about that, but all started with that waiting to Matan Torah. It's all connected to our ability to wait to something, to want something badly, so much to believe it's going to happen, so we count in the days. We know it's going to take the time, but we believe that the change can happen. We believe that eventually we're going to get the Torah. We believe that eventually we're going to have the Eretz Israel, which we really have in those days. Also, Rabbi Soloveitchik was very famous by speaking about how important it is to be in Eretz Israel and how important it is to support it. So, in that way, I mean, it's maybe connected also to the end of the time you're saying Kaddish Lim, because it's also something like we're counting the days, we understanding that something is ending now and we're saying goodbye to the soul. But I want to bless us all in that ability to look on something, to look on a goal and to understand, yes, we can wait for that, and we believe that can happen. Exactly like we got the Torah, exactly like we got Eretz Israel, Be'ezrat Hashem.